Hi everyone. Delighted to say today we're joined by Markus Uglebjerg. Um, you may or may not know that we recently spoke to Marco Verbeek, who's a set play coach in the Eredivisie, and he was like, "You have to speak to Marcus." So we followed his advice, and here we are today. Um, Welcome, Marcus. First of all.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, Billy, and happy for Marco's recommendation. So I appreciate that.
Brilliant. So Marcus' current role, he's the assistant coach and set play coach at Viborg in the Danish Superliga. And today he's going to speak to us about implementing a set play philosophy. But before we move on to the main content, having spoken to Marcus a few weeks ago, I thought it'd be really interesting for everyone to hear Marcus's story about how he's got to where he is today, given that I think I'm right in saying you've only just turned 26.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I started coaching quite early on. I thought that I was a good footballer myself, but I don't think all the coaches I had agreed on that. So I quickly realized that if I were able or should be able to work in football, I would prefer just to find some other way than playing myself, since I probably wouldn't make it so far. And then I've already always really loved thinking a little bit outside the box and looking at strategies and working with people. And then yeah, it just makes sense to try to become a coach. So I started when I was 14 or 15. I had my first teams coaching in smaller Danish academies and working my way through some Danish academies, and coming to a place where I just really felt like home in a club called Helsingør, which is in the north of Denmark. And I had a great time there, working my way up through the ranks, and ending up working with a lot of things in the club, also doing some analysis for the first team and stuff like that. And then I came to a bigger academy in Denmark and worked there for 1.5 years. And then my old town club, Helsingør, called me back for the first team as an assistant coach. And then I was there for a little while, and then I was so lucky to get a call from Viborg, or Viborg as we say in Denmark, where I've been working for the last, yeah, almost 2 years as an assistant coach, with the responsibility, or the main responsibility of our set piece and our set place.
Brilliant. And just lastly on this section, is there any advice you would have for any young coaches or young analysts that are just starting out in terms of career progression?
Yeah, it's it's a cliche, but keep going, because at first in the football world it requires so many hours, and you have to do it with such little salary. And I believe if you don't only do it on 60 or 70%, you will not make it. So you have to make the sacrifices. You have to go all in. You have to work the hard hours, with the low payroll, and just keep going, keep going, keep going. Be curious, speak with people, help out whenever you can help out when you're at a club. Whenever there's someone who needs a bit of help, just raise your arm and say, "That's me." And then just takes a lot of hard hours and a lot of hard work, but at some point you will make it if you keep pushing. So I believe that's the best words of advice I can give.
Brilliant. Yeah, great advice there. Thank you. Yeah, so moving on to the main content of the presentation, um, where you're going to speak to us around how you've implemented a set play philosophy. I think this is
Yeah.
a really interesting topic, something I've spoken about before. Um, but I think often the word philosophy is sort of banded around the place, if you like, in football clubs. So, yeah, really interesting to hear more about this in relation to set plays.
Okay. So as you said, the word philosophy is being curved around football clubs and used in so many ways. So I'm trying to highlight what I think is the most important part of implementing a set play philosophy, or at least having the success to implement one. And the key word for me is culture. And a lot of the things I'm going to speak about today is the culture. As you see, my cursor is big today. I tried to make it bright and big and highlight it so I can move it around when we will start watching some video clips. It's not my normal cursor. This is just for today. Okay, so as I said, when you have to implement a set play philosophy, culture is key. And I have this sentence or this quote that I think just says everything. Um, I don't know if you can see yourself, but here we go. People do not experience your intentions. they experience your behavior. And I think that's head on what set play philosophy and set play culture is, because I believe there are so many clever people out there, so many people who have fantastic intentions, who are really has a really high level in terms of analysis, in terms of preparation, in terms of creating set plays. I'd say that, of course, I think my set play book is quite good, and we have a lot of good stuff. But I don't think I'm the best in the whole of the world in terms of creating set plays and stuff like that. But the most important thing is the behavior, because as said in this quote, people don't see the intentions; they see the behavior, and I believe that's the key of succeeding with set plays. So let me see if I can. Yes. So one of the things I've used a lot of time doing in Viborg is creating a set piece group with the players. And I think, as it says here, that the player's perspective, it matters a lot in terms of set plays. Because again, when we move it back to the sentence from before, intentions can be really good, but it's the behavior that matters. And to create a set play culture, you need the same behavior from your team. And I think one of the keys in getting the team on the same page as you is to in the ground phase of creating set pieces, having meetings with them, discussing set plays, now I've shown some of my playbook with some of the players. They have come up with some tweaks we can do, some other stuff we can use. And I think it's really important because, I think this sentence says a lot. If you have to present something, it's way more fun to present your own work than to present someone else's work. And I think it's the same on the pitch with the players. When they are in on the pitch and we, for example, have a corner, it's way more fun and they are way more focused when they have to present their own work, which they have been creating with me in this set piece group, than when they have to present my work. So I think if I just put some papers down and I said, this is the way, my way or the highway, this is what we're doing, you just have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, then I don't think they will succeed as much as if they had something to say in terms of this. Of course, there's a road, there's a box which I expect the players to work within when they work with me in the set piece group, but they are so creative, they experience the game in another way than I do. They have so much experience, they've tried so much stuff. So I think their thoughts and their experiences just give so much to our set plays. And that's why it's so important for me to have the players already in the implementation phase. And then they also know their teammates really well. So for example, now I have a fantastic set play group with 3 players, our captain, one of our really good center backs who's a fantastic header, and one of our big strikers. And then they know their teammates really well. So they also know what they do good, where we can use each other to hurt the opponents. And that's why it's so important to bring them in, because then also when they have to present the work on the pitch, it's their work. And then the focus is way sharper and they are doing it way better, is my belief. So that's why it's really important to create a set piece group with the players for me.
Markus, just on that set piece group that you've referenced there, how did you determine what players actually made up that set piece group?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Billy, because of course when you come in at a club as a new coach, you need to use a little bit of the experience from the other coaches who's been there for a longer time. You need to work it with a little bit with the players who've been there in the past, and you quite quickly get the feeling of which players does set piece really matter for, which players are some key components in terms of having success with your set pieces. And that's the feeling of the coach, I would say. So for example, our captain he's fantastic. He really enjoys working with details. He's really clever. He's a fantastic blogger. So he will sacrifice himself for the team's success. So in terms of creating the perfect set piece, I need him in my group. And we have a center back who's a fantastic header, but also unselfish and want success for the team, and who has people listening to this guy, which is really important in terms of getting the set piece culture to grow. And then we have a striker who's really big, and he's also really, really unselfish, and that's fantastic with our group of players. I've also been quite lucky here. Um, but who has another kind of experience because he's really tall. He's often covered by the best header of the opponent, so he sees it in a new, different way. And he's been speaking a lot about using himself as a blocker because they will focus a lot of him, and then people can run around him and stuff like that. So it's just getting that feeling of which players you think can help the environment grow and the culture grow. And that's how I ended up with these three guys. But I have so many other fantastic players I think I could choose from. And sometimes we also do some switches and changes in the group. So yeah, I just believe that you need somebody who's unselfish, who wants to sacrifice, and who can help the environment grow. And I think these three guys are the perfect example of that. But I could also mention so many other guys from the team who also deserve to be in that group. So this part is from the coach's perspective, and this is one of the main ways to make the culture grow. I believe it's the positivity and it's the high energy. This is one of my favorite things to say. How good are you? Speaking with the players when they do something fantastic, creating an environment where every time we watch video, we evaluate the matches or we look forward to the next matches, praising the players for their abilities. Of course, you need to know where the weaknesses are, but I think it's way more easy to make the culture grow and the environment around set piece grow and the positive vibes and energy in terms of set pieces grow when you keep praising the players for their fantastic abilities. So I spend a lot of time being really positive, and then I also spend a lot of time being high energy when I work on the pitch. Set plays, as it says here, set plays must never become the boring part. That's really important. Set plays sometimes leans into being a thing that people just like need to get done. It's in the end of the session. Now we had all the fun, we have all the intensity, we had all the high energy. Oh, now we just need to hear a coach speaking and speaking and speaking and pulling us around. And it's so important it never becomes the boring part. And of course, when you have a bit of success, it's easier to get rid of that boring part thing. But it's also about how you coach being positive. People love being praised. Players love being praised. So if they feel that, okay, now I'm going down here doing my set plays, the coach is on, we're ready. He loves when I do the things right. Then we're just ready to work with it. And I think all these small factors are so important in making the culture grow. And just to go back to my first sentence, people do not experience your intentions, they experience your behavior. And everything you do on the pitch, everything you do in the meetings, everything I do in the set piece group meetings, it just matters because they need to feel you, they need to feel the importance of the set plays, but they also need to feel that this is really fun, this is a fantastic thing to work with, instead of the set plays becoming the boring part that we just need to get over with. Yeah, so that was a bit on the culture. Then I want to speak a little bit about the designing of the set plays. Of course, your team matters. It's so important which players you have. You cannot just, as a coach, have your own way of doing things and just be like, it's my way or the highway. That's also one of the things I said before. It really matters which team you have. So you should never force anything if it's not fitting for the players. For example, now in Viborg, we have maybe we don't have on the paper a fantastic set piece teams, but then some of the abilities these players have, it's unbelievable. They have some fantastic qualities. So even though we don't have the highest and the heaviest team in the league, they have a lot of other qualities. And I think that's really important to focus on this. So again, to turn the positive, to make the positive story, it's so important looking at the qualities, praising the qualities, really focusing on it. But of course, you need to know the limits. You just need to change that narrative a little bit. So it's not the limits that unfocus, it's the qualities. And then as a coach, it's your responsibility to make sure that these limits that are in your group isn't shown too much. So just to take an example, it could be a defensive structure where as I said, in Viborg, we don't have the tallest or the heaviest players. So we are aware that one of our biggest issues is we cannot win all the heading duels. That's impossible for us. So instead, we focus a lot on challenging in the duels, but not winning the ball. So we know in Viborg, okay, we will concede maybe actually the most finishes in the league on defensive set plays. And that's okay with us. The only key is we will never give away a free header. And that's again changing that narrative a little bit. So we know we're small, but we also know that we have players that are fantastic at running around, following, switching. So maybe if one player is blocked, then the other player can take the opponent that runs away. And we really, really sharpen these parts of the defensive play. So we look at the qualities. We know the players, they are fantastic at following runs, being ready, being close. But we also know that we don't have the players to win the duels. So we say it's okay to give away shots as long as we challenge, because then nobody's just having a free hit on our box. And that's a little bit about changing the narrative, knowing the limits, but focusing again on the qualities. Then now I'll look and speak a little bit about the offensive part. I know that's something a lot of people find a bit more interesting than the defensive part. So I believe when you design your set plays, it's important that you have a limited amount of plays. I think if you start having 7, 8, 9, 10 plays that you can switch between, then instead of being 100% good in something, you end up being 70 or 60% good in a lot of things. And when you do that, then it's really hard to make things work. And that also comes back to the culture again, making sure that everybody knows their role, everybody works together for the same objective. And I think if you have a lot of plays and some people are in doubt and there's a lot of things to remember, then you won't get that culture and that togetherness to work on the pitch. But then it's really important when you have a few plays that they have a lot of different outcomes. So you can change depending on which zonal structure you meet. So for example, you meet sometimes a zonal structure where the 2 players in zone defending and you have 8 players man marking. Then you need a play that can target the weaknesses of this structure. Then sometimes you meet 4 zonal players, 4 man markers, 2 rebounders. Then you need a play that can target the weaknesses of that structure. And that's so important that in the few plays you have different outcomes. So you got the ability to switch between few things you're 100% good in instead of having 7, 8, 9 things you're only 60% good in. That's a key factor for success for us.
Just on that one, Markus, I think like you alluded to at the start, a lot of people think they need to have this huge playbook with all these different intricate routines. So yeah, really interesting to get your thoughts on how you've approached things. So just to confirm, if you had maybe fewer plays, would you still plan for specific outcomes from those plays, or would you just know that from the setup you've got, you'll have different outcomes based on the structure?
If I got your question perfectly right, I think that, and I think we'll talk a little bit about it now, that I think it's important that you're able to, when you're 100% good in something, it's easier to do tweaks within that something. So if the players know 100% what all the roles are, then it's easy to say, but for this match, they defend like this. Then if we do this instead and tweak it a little bit, then we can still challenge them in a different way. So instead of choosing something completely new, having this big set playbook where you just choose whatever you feel like can suit for that match, then it's better to have your basis right, and I will come into that now, and then being able to tweak things from there. Yeah, and I think this sums it up a little bit. Keep it simple at first. So when you're integrating a set play philosophy, it's so important to start out by keeping it simple. You need the players on board. You need the players to know what they have to do. If you just come in, throw 10 pages on the table and say, you should be able to do this and this and this and this and this, the players will just explode. You need to keep it simple, figure out which way you're going, which road you're going down, what is the most important thing for you as a coach. And even now in preseasons, even though I've been here for almost 2 years, in preseasons, we always restart. We don't change things, but we restart. So for example, for the first a preseason match, we never have side space free kicks. We never have direct free kicks. We always just play them short and quick. We never have long throw-ins. On the defensive part, we only have one corner defensive structure. The same for the offensive, only one corner offensive. And then we build it up again during the preseason. So it's not 100 things they have to think of straight away. It's just building the structure and the philosophy up as we go. So make sure you got the basics right. What matters for you? And then when you got the basics right, you can become 100% confident in your place, in your few plays. For us, it's 5 plays, maybe 4 or 5 plays we work with. And when we're 100% confident in our plays, then we tweak them and then we work with details, because then everybody knows what's happening. Then I can be like, maybe you should, when we do this block for each other, if you do it like this instead of that, then it will help us for this match. Or I can say, okay, they are really strong in that area where we normally hit it. If we just hit it here and change our run-ins a little bit, then we can change the small things that matters in terms of creating the success we need. I love to show this with some video. So this is how we tweak our set plays. There will now be 3 videos. They will all take the starting point in the same set play. So the players know exactly this set play, but as you will see, it's 3 completely different things because we tweak the details. So instead of creating something new, we just tweak the details. So first up, this is how it mostly looks like. I'll take the voice down like this. Here you have a group. You have 3 players working together. You have some blockers and some decoy runs. A little block for each other. A block on their zone player. Lots of space. 3 header inside the small box. And 1 up for Viborg. The first thing we see now in this still picture, it's the same play, I promise. But the starting positions, they are completely new. So as you see now, when we're ready to go, let's see if I can get this one started. Yep. Three players in here, some blockers, 3 players out here, some working. Again, a small block and blocks on zone players, and a free shot almost inside the small box at the first post. So again, it's the tweaks depending on the opponent we meet. I'll take you through some opponent analysis in a bit. But it's these small tweaks that makes the difference for us. Same play here. But now we know we meet a team who is quite strong in the first area. So same setup, 3 players. But now we push it inside the middle instead. Block on the back of the zone player and block the last zone player. And then we got space for a free header at the edge of the small box. So 3 different plays, but it's the same play. So it's the small tweaks depending on the opponent we're going to meet that matters. And the only reason we can do that is because the players are 100% confident in that setup. And then we can do the small tweaks depending on who we meet.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think people, if they thought about a corner routine, for example, and you said there was different starting positions, people, or a different target area, people would automatically assume it's a completely different routine. But actually, there's a lot of consistency within the roles that those players take up, which is really interesting.
Exactly. So I'll just take you through quickly my our analysis. I call it my preparation checklist before the matches. It's a bit so I'm going to skip some of the points a little bit quick. I always, of course, look at the defensive structure of the opponents. Now it will take my starting points in offensive corners, which we've just done. So I look a bit at the defensive structure. I kind of know the weaknesses within the different defensive structures, the weaknesses, the strengths, of course, focusing most of the weaknesses of the opponent. But this one, that's the key for me. It's the team and individual behavior, because when you meet opponents, they can always switch. Then they do a new defensive structure. They do things differently. They man mark in another way. But one thing that's for sure is that the behavior, both for the team and for the individual, that will be the same no matter what. Because one thing that's easy to change is your structure. One thing that's really hard to change is the player's behavior. So that one is one of the things and one of the key factors for my analysis before matches. Then I, of course, choose our offensive structures. Now I talked about we have 4 to 5 plays that we use at the moment. So I choose these offensive structures, which I think can target the weaknesses and the behavior of the opponents. Then maybe there's a potential preparation of some trick plays if I think there's something really, really odd that we can challenge with a trick play. And then I prepare the small tweaks within the structure, within our structure. So I look at the individual behavior of the opponents, I look at their weaknesses, I look at the team behavior, and then I do the small tweaks within our structure. And then prepare your players for the unexpected. Again, they can change whatever. And this all comes back to the culture. When you play at a stadium with, just between 5,000 or 100,000, it's not possible to communicate with the players when they're 50, 60 meters away. So if you have a strong culture, you have players on the pitch who thinks and works like you, then you can actually just stay in your seat during the match and just look at them perform their work, as I said, because it's way more fun to present your own work than to present somebody else's work. So that comes back to the work we've been doing with the set play group early on. If they see some unexpected things, they have the same mindset, they have the ability to do the same decisions as you, lean back and enjoy your players working on the pitch because they're a big part of it, and you have created a culture together with them. So the trust between you and them is really high. So that's fantastic to see. And this, again, comes back to the culture all the time. Now, the analysis. Just a quick one. We're going to play against the black team, not next week, but let's pretend that. There are some things in their behavior that's interesting here. First up, the normal thing when you man mark, and this is a small detail, when you man mark inside the small box, when you pack the goal with all your players, the normal thing to do is, as you see this guy, to push your opponent inside, because then it's hard to get out and get the momentum for the header. So that's the normal way of defending inside the small box. But when you go on the goalie, the players always want to protect their goalie. So as you see here, the red player who's covering the goalie, he's not being pushed inside. He's actually being pushed outside. And I think that's quite interesting because then it's possible for the player in red to run out and get some momentum. Second thing we're going to look at now is the behavior. If you look at the 3 players in front, individual and team behavior, as soon, or actually just a little bit before the kick goes, they will all move a few steps forward. You'll see it now. Whoop, already now, moving a few steps forward. So what happens is the space, if you see here, between the first 3 black players and the last black players here, it's quite big. So knowing that if you cover the keeper, you can get momentum running out because he will cover you or he will protect his keeper. You can get momentum in a run here. And you know that the first 3 players, they will take a few steps because it's their behavior. That's how they work. A few steps forward. So you can create space in here. So let's see if we maybe can challenge them here. It's Viborg on the green, who are the green team, and we're playing Nordsjælland black team, who's actually I think they're fantastic. I love their work. They're a little bit like us. They don't have the tallest players, but they are also working outstanding together. I think it's really, really interesting to look at them. But a little detail you will see now. I just do like this. This is one of our great headers. He's fantastic, unbelievable header. Look, they actually protect their goalie. So he has space. And now you will see the behavior of the first 3 players from the black team going forward and look at the space. And that's really interesting. And let me take it a little bit further forward. So you get to see it slow. Momentum running out from the keeper and the header inside the small box. And now, and this is outstanding work, I have to show this block because it's fantastic. This is Mbom, a fantastic blocker. He can do all. He can block. He can hit. He can be the last guy. He can do everything. He's fantastic. If you see here, we know the behavior is to go to the front. So he goes close. What does this guy do? He moves to the front, as we know of the behavior, and look at how he spins and blocks suddenly the back of him. So there's so much space for his teammate. That's fantastic work. So that's the small tweaks and the small details you can do within your play when you start analyzing the opponents. But you have to make sure that you're 100% safe and everybody knows their role in the play. But because if they don't, then it's not possible. And for that, to look at the team, I have the last clips of the day. And this is one of the trick plays I spoke about, creating space. Here we're playing Aalborg. They have a 5-man zonal structure. And then they have 2 rebounders and 3 man markers. And we use the first play here. We know there's a lot of space to attack here with a flat pass, but we had to know which players were unmarked. So we used the first play to figure out which of our 4 normal hitters would be the unmarked guy. So here we sacrifice a little bit, going to the back post for one of our rebounders, blocking in behind. He gets a lot of space, but the ball is not delivered perfect. But what we figured out with this play is that this guy, number 4, he's unmarked. So now we can use him for blocking on the next play. So here we go. Same side, same setup. We need to get this rebounder away, and we need to get this zonal player away, because again, we looked at the behavior. This rebounder will be ready to go to this space. And this, the second zone player, not the first zone player, the second zone player, his behavior was to attack the space. So if we can get those 2 blocked away, then it's a free shot inside the box. Now you will see, we figured out number 4 was unmarked. Here he comes, block, and again, a block on the rebounder. So 1 block on the second zone player, 1 block on the rebounder, and suddenly one of our rebounders is free inside the box and has an open shot. And again, this can only be possible if the team works together, if the culture is perfect, and everybody knows that everybody matters. So in all of this, it all comes back to the culture, and that will be my my main point from today that I think people should take away.
Thank you very much, Markus. Absolutely fascinating how you've spoken about sort of setting that broader culture and then shown us the incredible amount of detail you go into in terms of the routines and the analysis. Just one more question I had was, would you mind talking to us a little bit about how you're interacting with the players during the week in the build up to a game, after the game, in regards to set plays?
It depends on the week and the build up. But the normal week, if we start looking in terms of team meetings, I will always do 2 team meetings. I will do an evaluation of the last match. That will most likely be midweek, where we evaluate the last game. We're not going to evaluate everything in regards to the set pieces. So I normally take out 2 topics and 2 main takeaway points for the players in regards to the last match. And they will almost always be positive. They will be positive, and the players will be praised. And then, of course, it's really rare that I do the same takeaway points in the next week. Then we take something else and talk about that. But again, it's positive. It's high energy meetings. It's 10 to 15 minutes sharp, where you just go through the clips, praise the players. If the small details that needs to be tweaked or worked with, you take that in the middle, but you keep praising, you keep working with them, you keep being positive. And then we have a preparation meeting, which is the day before the match, where we'll go through the most important parts of the opponent's set pieces. Again, I'm really, really careful in what I share with the players, because again, it's not my intentions that matters, it's my behavior. And I have 1,000 intentions every time we go into a match, 1,000 things I think about, but I need to share the most important stuff, because else I lose them. So it's 3 to 4 points on the opponent that we just need to be aware of. And then again, we look at ourselves, we look at things we know, we look at things we've been doing for a long time, and then we speak about the tweaks for the upcoming match. Again, 10 to 15 minutes meetings, no more. On the pitch, match day -1, I always work offensively, most commonly with the starting 11. Match day -2, I always work defensively, normally with the whole squad. And then during the week, sometimes I put in some small individual sessions, especially if we had trick play you saw at the last clip. We had to work on that during the week so we don't end up the day before the match working 30 minutes with set pieces and overloading information, but just building it slowly up with a few players during the week, taking the roles with 3 players and then taking the other roles with 3 other players the next day. And then we try to integrate set pieces again to create the culture in the things we do. So when we play 11 versus 11 and we speak a lot about quick restarts, we have balls all around the pitch for throw-ins. If we have a free kick, we put it into play quickly. So we don't speak too much about set pieces. We again just make sure that it's part of a positive environment with a lot of high energy. So the players, they just grow it into their own culture.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think the days of teams practicing set plays the day before a game and that being all the work they would do on set plays are well and truly gone, aren't they, at the elite level?
I hope they are.
Yeah, let's hope so. But look, Markus, thank you so much for your time. I think you've really brought to life this concept of having a set play philosophy and how that can actually be implemented with players as well. So thank you so much. If anyone has any questions on today's content, please just drop myself a message on LinkedIn. But yeah, thanks again, Markus, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Billy.